Petr Yan versus Merab Dvalishvili, Amanda Nunes versus Irene Aldana, and Valentina Shevchenko versus Alexa Grasso have all been announced over the past day, and this is my MMA news reaction video, reacting to all of those fights being made, and also giving my early prediction on who I believe is going to win, and what I think about the matchup in general. So we're going to start straight away with Petr Yan versus Merab Dvalishvili. It has been announced for the main event of the theater at Virgin Hotels in Las Vegas on the 11th of March. That fight card really needed a good main event, and it's got a good main event in Petr Yan versus Merab Dvalishvili. We kind of saw this fight coming, because when you think about it, I mean, who else really is there for Yan and Merab to fight? They're right next to each other in the rankings. It makes sense in the bantamweight division. So I saw this one coming. It wasn't too much of a shock. One thing I was surprised by, though, is how soon this is going to be happening. It's in 7 weeks' time. But one very, very important piece of information before I even get into who I believe is going to win is that this is a main event of a fight night for 5 rounds. And that's very important, because in a 3-rounder against grapplers, Yan is at a little bit of a disadvantage there. And I believe if this fight was announced as a 3-rounder, I would probably pick Merab Dvalishvili to win. But I believe in a 5-round bout, because I don't see Merab finishing Yan in any way whatsoever, I think it leaves too many opportunities and too much time in general for Yan to land something vicious to hurt Merab Dvalishvili and either finish him later on after Merab takes him down a few times in the early rounds, or drop him in enough rounds to win a decision on the scorecards. So I think I'm going to go with Petr Yan by decision, 48-47, in a very close fight. Maybe we'll even see a split decision here. I think this is a very, very tough matchup for both fighters, but I've got to pay attention to the fact that Petr Yan, young guy for the bantamweight division still, really, really good takedown defense shown in his Aljamain Sterling fights that he's had. I mean, Aljo failed a bunch of takedowns on Yan, even in their second fight. But the difference was in that fight is that when Aljo got 2 of his only 2 takedowns in that fight, he took the back both times and locked in that body triangle. Merab doesn't do that. That's the only thing I have that's sort of holding me back from picking Merab here. Merab doesn't take the back. He doesn't take mount and land ground and pound. He gets into full guard and tries to strike from there, and he postures up very heavily to strike from full guard when he's there on top anyway, like he was doing against Marlon Moraes. And a guy like Petr Yan, if he catches you posturing up when you're in full guard on top of him, I think he's getting up every time. Now, Merab could have a chance going out there and showing an absolutely abnormal and almost impossible level of cardio to be able to sort of drown Petr Yan over 5 rounds and constantly take him down over and over again. But I think eventually in this fight, as it goes on and we get into rounds 3, 4, and 5, we're going to see Yan have a type of performance that he had against Magomedov way back in the day, where he starts taking over as the fight goes on. The same thing he did against Aljamain Sterling as well. He knows how to get back up. And I also believe that Merab is going to do a lot of holding against the cage here. And I think Yan is very, very good at striking from the close quarters positions in the clinch. If you're going for over-unders on Yan, he'll find wrist control and turn it into an elbow on the break. So I can see Yan landing some elbows on the break, dropping Merab in one of the rounds at one point and stealing rounds for himself. But I do think this is going to be a very tough matchup for both of them. A very tough matchup. This is a really good fight, and I'm really looking forward to it, because it's one of them. This is the one to make in the bantamweight division right now. You know, get things moving, get things back on track. I think the winner of this one is going to be probably, if it's Merab, maybe they're looking at if Sandhagen beats Marlon Vera, he's going to be looking to fight Corey Sandhagen next. Maybe he's looking to fight the loser of an upcoming title fight in the bantamweight division. Anything but fighting Aljo, because Merab is really made it his mission to ruin bantamweight as a functioning division and just sort of be a bodyguard for Aljo, which is the most pathetic move in UFC history by any contender. I'm not over-exaggerating. The pathetic little goblin. I'm not even going to get into it. But we move on from my surging rage against Merab Dvalishvili. If he wins, he's looking for a top-level name to get him a title shot that he doesn't even want. So who knows? Maybe he'll just earn a title shot, beat the contenders, and then just stay there and not fight for the belt. The fucking pathetic gremlin. Either way. If Yan wins, which I believe is going to happen, but very risky fight, he could end up losing. But if Yan wins, we're looking at the winner of Rob Font versus Adrian Nunes, which is happening around the same time, I believe, on the April pay-per-view card. So you can turn both of those guys around for the October pay-per-view or a September pay-per-view, put them on the main card, and have a really good style matchup there for the two of them. And then the winner of that one can start looking at title elimination bouts again in the bantamweight division. So really looking forward to this one. I just think Yan is going to sneak it. You know what I mean? So Merab will go out there round one, out-grapple Yan. Yan will land some knees to the body, some good shots at range, but not much will happen. Round two, Merab will be out-grappling Yan again, but Yan will be getting up a little bit easier now, and Yan might drop him at the end of the round or start to really land some good shots and steal the round back for himself based on damage. And then round three, we're going to see Merab really not be able to get Yan down as much, and Yan's going to be held against the cage, but he's going to land elbows on the break and do a lot of damage and finish the round really strong, and maybe he ends up on top in a scramble and starts landing some vicious ground and pound. And I think that's how the fight's going to play out as it goes on, especially in rounds 4 and 5 as well. I think it gets worse for Merab as it goes on, but Merab's got a solid chance of stalling this fight out, but I just don't see him finishing Yan. You know what I mean? He's a powerful guy. And maybe Yan's chin eventually starts saying no more. And all of a sudden Merab is the guy KOing Yan in the main event. But I think Yan's going to handle this one and sneak his way to a decision win, 48-47. We move on to another fight that got announced, which was Amanda Nunes versus Irene Aldana. This got added to UFC 285. I might as well bundle these two fight announcements into one because Valentina Shevchenko versus Alexa Grasso was also added to UFC 285. And that's two Mexican title contenders on that card versus the champions that have been dominant for so long. I know Nunes lost recently, and Shevchenko actually had a really close fight recently, so one could say like it's getting less dominant as of recently, to be honest with you. There's starting to be some gaps to where some of these title fights are going to be a little bit more interesting because you don't know the commitment of Nunes to the game. You also don't really know if Shevchenko is really at the peak of her game anymore after that last fight against Santos. I don't know why they made the Grasso fight, in all honesty. I think it's a little bit too soon. I think Grasso's a dangerous challenge on the feet for Shevchenko in the boxing department. But I think Shevchenko will be able to sort of like get the takedowns when she needs to, play at range, use a lot more kick-heavy of a game to win this fight on the feet as well. But I think that Grasso's going to give a good account for herself. Maybe we're going to see like a 49-46 Valentina Shevchenko decision. Maybe. That's what I would go for in that matchup. And for the Nunes versus Aldana one, Aldana's got some good KOs in her career. She's definitely got that power factor, but does she have the power factor to beat a woman like Amanda Nunes, who showed her offensive grappling in her fight with Juliana Pena in the last one? No. You know what I mean? We were seeing Macy Chiasson start to get the better of Irene Aldana. And to be honest, if Irene Aldana didn't get that up kick to the liver from on her back, which is the craziest thing we've ever seen, she literally got a liver shot up kick, pretty much, right? Heel strike from on her back, which was just absolutely crazy. Up kick to the liver. She was losing that fight, and she was starting to lose positional dominance. So I think Nunes has that option to mix in the takedowns and end up on top and start to mix in that part of her game. And I also think she's going to do okay on the feet as well. Irene Aldana does have some good power, though. That's what I do have to say. She beat Yana Kunitskaya in the first round, got a big drop there in the first round and finished her with ground and pound afterwards. And then she got a big KO win over Ketlin Vieira, which was very, very impressive. And she finished off the job there with a massive, massive KO in the first round. And I mean a KO as well. Like, this was a real lights-out KO over another top contender. But Yana Kunitskaya hasn't even fought since then. You know what I mean? And she's getting up there in age. And then Ketlin Vieira just lost to Raquel Pennington. And I just can't help but remember Nunes completely destroying Holm with a head kick in the first round. And also can't help but remember Holly Holm schooling Irene Aldana on the feet for 5 rounds and having one of her best performances of her entire career, if you don't remember that fight. Normally Holly Holm just holds women against a cage. You know what I mean? She's like a female Merab. But I feel like she's going to be able to... I think Nunes is going to be able to do this one. You know what I mean? I think she's got the footwork available, got the movement, got the technique on the feet, but also has that sting of power that's going to stop Aldana being able to pressure her the same way she tried to pressure Holly Holm. So I'm going to go with Amanda Nunes and Shevchenko, obviously. Sorry, no upset picks here. But I will say this. I didn't think they were going to go with Alexa Grasso. I understand these women's champions probably want to get on the Jones card because I'm assuming that they're going to get a share of the pay-per-view, 5% or something, and Jones is going to sell like probably 800,000 buys, and they're going to get a share of that. So I understand why their management want them to be on the card. And I also understand this if it's a move such as like they're doing this one, so they're on the same card, so maybe there's a clash on Embedded, and they run into each other at the weigh-ins backstage, and if they both win, Nunes and Shevchenko, then we can do the super fight afterwards. But Manon Fiorot's the number one, she's literally number one ranked, so maybe she's injured, I don't know, maybe they're going to build Manon Fiorot, but I was honestly expecting them to do like a fight night in Paris without Cyril Gane, because of course he's fighting for the belt now, and you could do a title fight as a fight night in Paris. That's what I would have done. UFC Fight Night Paris, June, Valentina Shevchenko versus Manon Fiorot, a French women's title contender, with like Nassourdine Imavov versus Kelvin Gastelum rebooked as the co-main event and some other good fights on the card. That's the move I would have made, but the UFC's gone with this. I think they're trying to set up that Nunes-Shevchenko trilogy and get that fight done with the move they're making here by putting them on the same card. So I guess you're going to have to do what? Manon Fiorot versus the winner of Santos Blanchfield in the meantime. I guess it builds a more interesting contender in the long run in the women's flyweight division, but just not the move I would have made right now. I would have given Grasso one more fight in the meantime because she's number 4 and Fiorot's number 1, but whatever. All good. I think Shevchenko and Nunes are going to win. I reckon Nunes will get a decision. Shevchenko will get a decision. Pretty smooth sailing, but I'm really looking forward to Yan versus Merab. That's the fight announcement that really spurred me to make this video. I'm just glad these last 2 women's fights got added short notice. But man, if this is how the UFC's going to up their game, now that Ngannou's gone to prove that he made a mistake leaving, I'm all for it. You know what I mean? We're getting 3 title fights in March, and we got UFC London afterwards. And if Arnold Allen didn't bruise his rib, it was going to be Allen versus Holloway, which basically is announced now. And they might end up doing Holloway versus Allen in April or May. So we'll see how it goes. You know what I mean? But this is good. This is a good start from the UFC after the whole Ngannou debacle. We've had so many amazing fights announced. And now the card of UFC 285 is looking like a really, really solid card. John Jones versus Cyril Gane in the main event. Amanda Nunes versus Irene Aldana in the co-main event. Valentina Shevchenko versus Alexa Grasso in the feature fight. Derek Brunson versus Dricus du Plessis on the main card. And also Jeff Neal versus Shavkat Rakhmonov. And it doesn't end there. You've got Bo Nickel, Jamie Pickett on the prelims. You've got Farid Basharat, Javid Basharat's brother, fighting on the prelims. You've got Cody Garbrandt coming back on the prelims as well. So this card is made sure to be a stacked card. And it ain't that far away. It really ain't that far away. This is what, 6 weeks away? Right? Yeah, it's like 6 weeks away. Crazy. Really looking forward to it. We need to get some other main events done. To me, this tells me Oliveira Dariush or Dariush Poirier, whatever they're going to do with Dariush next, is probably going to be the UFC San Antonio main event. That's what this is telling me. That's what I'm sort of getting from this. Maybe they'll save it for the April pay-per-view to add some power to that card as well. But man, we're off to a weak start of the year with the Krylov-Span card, the Lewis Spivak card as well. But trust me, it's getting better at March onwards. And hopefully they can keep that momentum going. Let's go, UFC. And McGregor's coming back. You know what I mean? So if and also, this tells us they might have an idea of a non-title fight pay-per-view coming up at some point. You know what I mean? Because otherwise, why would they be stacking so many title fights in March? They're leaving us basically with no title fights in April, May, June, until July. You know what I mean? So, yeah, this is interesting. Maybe they do have an idea of McGregor coming back in like June against Masvidal. And that can be the main event of a pay-per-view with O'Malley on the co-main, or Paddy Pimblett versus Tony Ferguson is something that I think they're going to do in the co-main at some point. So really looking forward to all the cards coming up. So I've got Yan 48-47 decision, Valentina Shevchenko decision, and Amanda Nunes by decision. Or I'll say Amanda Nunes ground and pound TKO or submission late rounds if Irene Aldana starts to quit after getting beaten up a little bit. I can see Nunes mixing in her offensive grappling as the fight goes on, to be honest with you. But really big news. And Holloway Allen, what a shame. We could have had that as well for UFC London. Imagine the cards in March. We could have had that on top of everything else at UFC London. What a shame. I knew that fight was coming. I said, UFC London, they're going to do Holloway Allen. But now Arnold Allen's injured. It sucks for him because they're probably going to make that a 5-round fight now. They're probably going to do a main event now. And Arnold Allen, all I'm going to say, is in a 3-rounder, he had a real chance against Max Holloway. A real good chance. 5-rounders against Holloway are a different animal, though. So this actually favours Holloway if they wait a little bit longer. I hope they wait for that matchup because that is a top contenders fight. And I hope they do like Ortega versus Topuria maybe in San Antonio. Who knows? Like and subscribe. See you later. Goodbye. More videos coming today. Stay tuned. Yeah.